This is the Teacher Talking Time podcast.
You haven't seen, no one's seen Nickelback live? I haven't.
No, just on YouTube.
Absolutely no
YouTube.
desire
Thank you,
to
YouTube.
see them.
No desire to see if you were actually wrong about them, Leo? Maybe they're actually good. No?
No.
Okay. Well, we're not here to talk exclusively about 90s bands, although Nickelback, for all their vitriol that they receive, actually is very famous. I'm sure they do very well for themselves. Lots of money coming in. They're not sisters of the poor, I'm sure. So congratulations to them. We are here today for a very special episode of the Teacher Talking Time podcast. The three of us back together in studio, and we thought it would be a nice idea as we get closer to the end of 2021, which is unfathomable for me to think about. Another year is almost over, to do something that we do on Instagram sometimes, which is an Ask Me Anything episode. And what we hope to get out of this is to learn more about us as people outside of the educational space, outside of our teaching lives. The three of us know each other pretty well, but we don't know each other perfectly. I'm sure we're going to learn some things. And as you listen, I'm sure you'll learn quite a bit about us. I hope that's the intention. Maybe we'll learn nothing. Depends on what questions we have. Each of us has prepared a series of questions for the others, and hopefully it'll stimulate a little bit of conversation. I don't have any Nickelback questions on my list. However, if that's the avenue we go down, I'm more than prepared.
We'll see what comes up. Yeah. Well, let's not burn it to the ground. Yeah. No, isn't that
That's probably one of
them.
Yeah. No.
All right then.
All right, let's move on.
So
Do
who
you guys
wants
have
to?
questions? I can kick things off. Yeah, I have one.
Let's do it.
And this is a question that I think a lot of listeners would enjoy listening to us talking about this, because I truly believe that a lot of teachers actually, not just teachers, but people in general, struggle with understanding or coming up with an answer to this question. So I'm going to preface by saying that I would love if you guys could actually be 100% vulnerable when answering this question.
I'm already nervous.
So the question is not a very simple one, but it's a very direct one. As a teacher, as a person, as a husband, partner, what have you, is it natural to doubt your capabilities, or is self-doubt a sign?
So they cut off the last word. A sign of what?
A sign of weakness.
Oh, very interesting. No.
So is it natural to doubt your capabilities, or is self-doubt a sign of weakness? That's the question.
Okay. Wow. I love it. I'll take that one first. No, it's definitely, I would say self-doubt is a strength, not a weakness. I think that means you're realistic. And is it normal? Of course. I can only speak for myself, of course, but self-doubt I had from my first day of teaching, the first day I've done anything, and I can say that it's still very present now. So, I think for me, self-doubt just means uncertainty. Self-doubt means that you've kind of checked your ego a little bit. Self-doubt means that you know that you need to learn some more. It doesn't mean that you can't be confident in where you are, or that, in what you do. But for me, self-doubt means that there are things that you're aware that there are holes in your practice, or in your life, or in your knowledge, gaps, whatever word you want to use. And that taking the step to fill those gaps is another step, but being aware that they exist is, for me, the first step in knowing that. And if, again, only speaking for me, but if I didn't have any self-doubt, I think that doesn't mean that I don't have those gaps. That just means that I don't refuse to acknowledge their existence. And then the second part, for sure, self-doubt is not a weakness. Self-doubt is a strength. I think self-doubt can perpetuate itself into developing perceived weaknesses, though no, I think at a very foundational level, it turned into a strength for sure. Mike?
Yeah, likewise. I think it's, having a sense of humility involves, being aware of some of the opportunities where you need to develop, right? And I think it's it's not really a bad thing in the sense that, as you said, Andrew, once we're aware of them, then we can actually take strides to maybe overcome some of those doubts and to kind of stop our disbelief in our abilities and capabilities. I think, though, where it becomes a weakness is where we become obsessed with those kind of weak vulnerabilities that we might have, and it becomes kind of paralyzing, right? Like we exclude ourselves from certain situations, we don't take certain risks, we stop developing in certain areas because we feel from the get-go that we're not good enough or capable enough to do it. So I think like that's where it becomes a greater weakness. But I think having that reflective ability to know the drawbacks or maybe points that you need to improve on is quite important, I think, for setting new targets for growth and whatnot.
I was actually, as you guys were both speaking, I was just thinking about that, because I have recently dealt with a little bit of self-doubt in this new position that I have just started with this ed tech company. And I was working with a bunch of techies, and I felt really incapable of doing the things that I thought I was required to do. But then I realized that I'm not there to code. I'm not there to do these things. But what I realized, and I don't know if this is the same thing for you guys, but going back to what Mike said, being very mindful of your own thinking helps you identify these self-doubt thoughts or patterns, if you wish. And I find that when you doubt yourself, when you experience that kind of uncertainty, it's mostly around things that you can't really control. Right?
Yeah, and I think, Leo, when I think of self-doubt, a lot of it has to do with our own lack of desire to want to leave our comfort zone, right? And I think overcoming self-doubt is really about being open to leaving your comfort zone, like you did with this new position. Again, knowing full well what you have control over in that new situation, but at some point, self-doubt, the vaccine for self-doubt might actually be a willingness to leave one's comfort zone. Yeah. Because it's often, we learn by doing, right? We learn through struggle and these opportunities to find new ways of doing things, or maybe just knowing that, hey, you know what? I thought I couldn't do this, but now that I've put myself in this position, I can, right? I can. Yeah. I know I can do this. I can cope.
It doesn't mean self-doubt, is easy. I think the question was, is it natural or is it normal? And my answer is yes. But just because something's natural and normal doesn't make it easy or something that's easy to overcome or deal with. But I think, whenever I, constantly question myself and have feelings of self-doubt, it's helpful for me to think about what the cause of those feelings are. What is it that is causing that doubt? Is there something that I can do about it? Is there something that I cannot do? Is it in my control? Is it outside of my control? More often than not, my self-doubt comes from a lack of engagement or knowing that other people are in the same situation, or a lack of just talking it out with someone who's in the same situation, or a friend or whoever it might be. So I think for me, challenging or going head on with my self-doubt is really helpful when I stop doing it self-doubt, when we do it as a group doubt, or talking with groups or talking with people, you guys, other people, whether it's professionally or personally. I think a lot of self-doubt comes from feelings of isolation that may or may not in reality be true. But when we find other people that are going through similar things to us, I know for me, that's always really helpful.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, on a professional level, I think certainly with what we do with our community of professional development or continuous professional development community is we kind of provide those opportunities, Andrew. And I think that on a professional level, I think that this community atmosphere and being able to vocalize and, like you said, find people who are going through similar challenges or have expressed similar concerns or self-doubt, is quite important for my own development as well.
And it's interesting that you said that, because I was talking to a teacher who is a member of our community, and she said she dealt with a lot of self-doubt when she joined the community, because she realized she didn't know anything. And she eventually started learning a lot. And eventually she got to a point where she was able to be very honest, to be very real with herself, and ask herself this really important question. How many times when I doubted myself or even feared something would happen, did that negative thing come into reality after I still took action? And the answer for her is, and probably for all of us, anyone who is listening, is that not very often at all.
Right.
So self-doubt most of the time is just these monsters in your head that your mind may use to keep you, going back to what Mike said, from making the changes that you need to make to keep you within that very, we call it the comfort zone. But if you look to your past experiences and you see how well things have gone many times, despite all those self-doubts, then it became easier to let go of them, or to even ignore them, or to even reduce fear of failure, or to focus on the more likely positive outcome and to take action. I think Mike dealt with that when he was probably starting his PhD. And Andrew, when you left that university that you were working for, and when I was working for that, like I think we've all felt, I remember feeling like, oh man, I'm leaving this job and it pays really well, and now we're kind of like going into this world that we don't even know what's going to be out there.
Winston Churchill once said that, and I have this pinned up because it applies to lots of exactly what you're saying here, Leo, that he said, the anticipation of death is worse than death itself. And that's been true in my life. The anticipation or the ideas or fears that we can concoct in our own mind are usually worse than whatever actually happens in reality.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what the community provides. It provides an opportunity, as Mike was saying, for people to actually talk to someone about it. Because I find that when you keep your thoughts on the inside, you eventually distort them. You exaggerate them. And they are more often than not in line with reality, or even with reasonable expectations.
We only have 45 minutes. I could talk forever about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
This could get heavy. Yeah.
I would share a quick, very short story. I used to be in a long distance relationship, and that's exactly what I did. I don't know if she did the same thing, but being away, I concocted this version of her in my mind that wasn't reality. It wasn't real. So when we would get together, I would have this feeling of like, not disappointment, but just like a different person. But it had nothing to do with her. I had concocted this version in my mind of something that wasn't real, or kind of what I wanted, but not what was actually existed. So the mind is a powerful thing. But self-doubt goes the other way too, right? As in terms of our community, I think some people believe that we don't have self-doubt, and that we are these people. I mean, I have self-doubt all the time. I know you guys too as well. So it is a community of vulnerability and being open. And just because you've done something for a long time, and even if you're good at something, I know we all experience self-doubt at the same time. So I have no point to that. That's just wanted to say that.
Which begs the question, and I think I wanted to ask you, this is maybe a follow-up question to the original question. Why is it so hard for teachers to find another teacher and talk to them about their self-doubts? Why is it so hard for teachers to be vulnerable with each other? What do you guys think? I'm curious about that one, because I think when we worked together, I think we were able to be very vulnerable with each other, and I think that's why we got along so well. And we decided that when we started learning English, and we wanted to create a community where vulnerability, where a growth mindset, a lifelong learning mindset, these things would be the norm. But we still encounter, or we still deal with people who are still very resistant to these ideas. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I wonder if it's just tied to the nature of how people teach. So I would also add there, Leo, that you and Andrew and I teach in a way that might not seem conventional, to say the the average teacher, or maybe a teacher that's just starting off their career, where they're kind of the main person in the classroom, or they see themselves, or their role anyways, as a person to deliver content, deliver information. Whereas I think, the three of us often approach teaching as really an act of co-discovery with the students, right? So we're learning as we go along with the students. So our egos are kind of checked at the door, right? We're not saying that this is what you need to know. We're saying, oh, well, this is what we're looking at. What do you want to know? What can I help you discover along this way, right? Along this journey. And I think when you encounter staff rooms or teachers that are less likely, or less willing to kind of share or be vulnerable, I think that, now I don't know this for sure, but I think it might also be that they perhaps conform to this older view of the teacher being the king of the classroom or queen of the classroom, where my way is the right way, or I'm the one with all the knowledge and ideas, and
the sage on the stage, right?
The sage on the stage, and I don't need to kind of change. This is the way we're going to do it because this is the class that I'm running, and I think as a result, teachers themselves in staff rooms might have a tendency to miss out on opportunities to say, oh, how are you doing it? Is it working for you differently? And maybe I can change the way I'm doing it, or this is the way I'm doing it, but I'd be open to doing it differently. And I just think that it might just be that there's a certain maturity that comes along with being a good coworker, and that maturity often involves a sense of humility and an appreciation for other people's points of view, and how those could be adapted and adopted by others. But so yeah. I kind of think that the industry itself, where you're a teacher, you're the deliverer of the content, you're the expert, you're the curator, kind of can kind of put teachers in a position where they're kind of scared to say that they don't know how to do something, because they themselves see themselves as having all the answers and not needing to learn, because as a teacher they should know everything that's supposed to be out there. Whereas if they have a mindset of kind of just not a mindset of inquiry and discovery, then they're always going to keep asking questions of how they can improve themselves and do things differently, and so on. So I wonder if just it's the way that people are socialized in the profession, and maybe the three of us were socialized in a great way by great individuals who helped us see the value of co-constructing knowledge rather than kind of taking it and delivering it.
Well said. I think that last one is important, where, not all teachers are created equal, and teachers are people first and have different interests. And just because someone's teaching in the same program as you, or a same course or same type of thing, doesn't mean they're going to have the same outside interests or mindset or whatever. So I think finding people who, just in life, finding people who are aligned with you in terms of your direction, where you want to go, minute points of interest is kind of, it can be difficult. So even people teaching in a physical school in the same program may have, one person may be interested in a TBLT approach, but they might be interested in something else, learning about this, learning about that. So it just can be challenging to find a group of people who, one, are willing to learn something, and that something to learn is similar to what you are. So yeah, agree completely with that, Mike. Should I go ahead with the next question?
Please.
Okay. I have to choose from my list here. Let's do this one. So I think we're all familiar with the concept, the famous question of, if you could choose a couple of people to have dinner with, alive or dead, blah, 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 right? But I'm going to flip that one around. Okay. I want you to imagine that someone was asked that question, who they could have dinner with, and they chose you. You are their answer. What would you, one, why do you think they chose you? And two, what would you choose to share with that person at that dinner?
That's a tough question.
Wow, that's a tough question.
Only
Yeah.
tough questions today, huh?
Wow. Leo, you go
Wow.
first on this one.
Oh man, I have no idea. Okay, I'll try. I'll try my best here. So why do I think they chose me?
Mhm.
Very good question. I think it's a natural tendency in life. Just like we choose our friends, we also choose the people that we want to be influenced by. And as we get older and more mature, I think we kind of start a natural process of eliminating people that do not align with our values. And the way I see it, a person would choose me for very weird reasons. They're probably going to say, I chose Leo because he likes suffering. It's almost like he likes carrying his own cross, his own crucifix.
Nice.
That's kind of it. I think they would choose me because they would say, you know what? I really like hanging out with Leo because he just likes to put himself in very uncomfortable situations, in situations where he's just going to have to naturally struggle and not have any help. And Mike said this to me once, and I never forgot it. He's like, "Oh, you're self-made man," and I kind of thought about it, and I was like, to a certain extent, I am, but I'm also a product of my environment. I'm also a product of the people that I've surrounded myself with, of my own mentors. And unfortunately, most of my mentors are dead. But I still ask myself, what would Epictetus do? What would Marcus Aurelius do? What would Socrates do? What would Mike do? What would Andrew do? So I think that's the first part, the answer to the first part of the question. The second part, what would I share with them? I think I would share what I'm sharing with you guys here today. I would share a lot of the struggles that I have gone through. I would share moments where I felt incapable, breaking points where I felt like I was just not going to make it, where I had negative thoughts, where I had self-doubt, where I experienced all these negative, this negative energy that we kind of all sometimes, internalize. And eventually I would talk about how I was able to use this dark, I like to call it the darkness inside of all of us, because we all have this dark side. I would say that you cannot neglect, you cannot reject your darkness. You have to find ways to really incorporate that darkness into your personality, because otherwise it's going to come out in ways that you are not expecting, and you're going to be basically self-sabotaging yourself in many, many different ways. So that's what I would share, I guess, or whatever else they asked.
I like it. I'll make a dinner reservation.
Yeah, I know, right?
Steak.
I mean, I would ask, I would have dinner with Leo just any day of the week for just advice, right? Just insight. Because Leo, you're so good at just, taking multiple perspectives and kind of hashing them out and then arriving at that place where you feel you need to be, right?
You have to like steak though to go have dinner with Leo. You can't if you don't like steak. Yeah.
Yeah. Limited options there, folks.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No vegetarian restaurants, please. Mike, what about you?
Oh man, I don't know. Mine's not as deep. But I'm a classic Gemini, right? So I'm going to give two reasons.
What does that mean?
Why?
Classic Gemini.
I don't, the astrology, right? The twins, right?
Okay.
The yin and the yang.
I'll be honest. I don't know what any of these things mean. Like, I don't know anything about. So please, yeah, maybe this is part of it. Okay.
Maybe this is part of it. Yeah. That's the entree, Andrew. Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of astrology there. No, gosh, I don't know. Why do people like hanging out with me? I think one reason is they might meet me to just talk and have a laugh. And I think,
yeah,
right, case in point, right? No,
there's never a boring moment with you, my friend. Trust me. There's never a boring moment with you.
Well, right. This is the one side of the coin, right? So one side of the coin, I think a lot of people kind of gravitate towards me if they want a good laugh, if they just want to just stop thinking about the dark side, right? Stop thinking a little bit about what's getting them down and have a little change of subject, change of pace. And I I guess I like to provide that every once in a while. Having said that, I think the other side of the coin is, and again, this might make Leo laugh a little bit, I'm not one for pulling punches. So I think if people really want honest feedback and honest answers, I'm always willing to give it to them without kind of sugarcoating it or beating around the bush. So, and I don't think it's in a negative way. I just think that some people just sometimes need to hear an answer. And I think that, yeah, like it's great to be light and fluffy and to have, you know, good times and everything. But at the same time, we all, as Leo pointed out, as individuals, we need to make real decisions and life altering decisions. And I think sometimes you just need people to give you or tell you exactly how they feel about the information you've presented. And I feel with me, I think individuals always kind of know where I stand on issues, and I don't hold back, and I don't mean in an aggressive way, but I think I'm very direct and honest when I need to be. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Now, what would we talk about? Yeah, what would we talk about? I think similar to Leo. I think I would like to think that anyone who's going to have dinner with me would be interested in a little bit about my own life lessons and what I've learned and how I've navigated kind of those things, like how to balance the serious with the comical. Because I think that's you know, in this day and age of Twitterverse and everything, social media, nobody has a sense of humor anymore. At the same time, there are really important pressing issues that we need to talk about. And I think I've navigated a fair few different teaching environments and classroom contexts and life situations while keeping a real positive, happy smile on my face most of the time. But I think, you know, that's a skill, right? That it's not something that comes natural to a lot of people. And I think that would be something we could talk about, you know, how to balance, make that, you know, sweet and sour combination perfect so that you're able to kind of just get on with the beautiful act of living, right?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about you, Andrew?
Oof. It was my question. Do I have to? Well, first of all, we wouldn't go for dinner. We'd go for breakfast because I'm a morning person and I'm not a night owl. So I always wondered in this scenario, who would you have dinner with? Which person, alive or dead? Why is it dinner? Why can't we have lunch? Maybe from hearing from you guys, maybe we have lunch with Leo, have the serious talk, have a lighter dinner with Mike, have a laugh. Maybe mine would be breakfasts. Go for breakfast with me, get your day started, have some coffee, and just,
yeah.
I think it really is. I asked this question because it's a hard one, and I think it's really difficult to think of what you think you're good at, why people would choose you for something, what you would share with them. I don't know that I would share anything. I think a lot of people, going back to this, kind of ties into your question, Leo, the answers we gave to your question, where I think a lot of people, especially these days with, you know, work life kind of influx, in our industry, there's a lot of precarity. I think a lot of people have ideas of what they want to do with their life. I think, myself included, self-doubt creeps in. And a lot of times we don't, for a wide variety of reasons, say yes to taking that step and taking that plunge and doing something. So I'd like to think that breakfast with me would be as a sounding board for people to kind of communicate what they actually want to do, and just having a space to say that out loud, to say that to somebody else, and just get encouragement. And just, I would just ask them, well, why haven't you done that? What's stopping you?
Like a judgment-free zone type of thing.
Yeah, well, of course. But even just, I mean, I know the three of us individually as a company, but also like individually have ideas that we want to do, and lots of them we're not doing. And that's just to be human, because that's just what it is. But you know, these days there's a lot of, you know, the pandemic has had lots of economical effects on the world, but that also just means there's so many opportunities that are sitting there waiting for lots of people. And I don't think people don't have ideas. I think people have self-doubt about the ideas that they have. And sometimes just talking about them helps. And doesn't mean that you're going to start it right away, but it can put you down a path of starting that idea, or starting that goal, or starting the process of doing that 1% every day to do the thing that you actually want to do, that you've been saying for a long time, I'll do that tomorrow. But we all know that tomorrow never actually arrives. Today is the only day that we can live in, right? So I think I would just listen to people. and ask them questions about why they haven't started the thing that they're telling me that they really want to start.
I think, you know, that's a really important skill, Andrew, right? There's always a tendency to talk as I am right now. But I think, you know, we've talked about this acronym, WAIT, right? Like, why am I talking? And sometimes it's just important to just stay silent and let people talk themselves through their own challenges, their own questions and whatnot. But it's tough, even for me, like as a person who loves chatting with people and feels almost obligated to fill dead air. I've really struggled with that, but I've been trying to develop this skill where, you know, we just sit back and listen, and let other people express what is on their mind.
Worst case scenario,
Non-judgmental.
you know? Yeah. I guilty pleasure alert, but I really like watching the show This Is Us. I know, guilty pleasure. But one of the couples in it, they do this little thing when they're deciding on a decision, a married couple, and something they want to do or they're scared to do, and they always just say, okay, let's worst case scenario this thing. What's the worst? And they talk to each other about what is the worst possible outcome of this decision. And most of the time, the purpose of that is realizing that it's really not that bad. So if you have a thing that you want to do or you're thinking about doing, that's what I do. What's the worst possible scenario that could happen? Some of them are bad. Usually it's not that bad. It's something that, you know, it's palatable. If that does happen, I could live with that. So worst case scenario.
Yeah. It reminds me of negative visualization or premeditatio malorum, where you basically think about all the negative things that could possibly happen. And automatically by doing that, you're removing the power that these events, that these things might have on you. And I remember when we used to work at that university, and Andrew also lived nearby. You were at Eglinton. I'm still at Lawrence. I would always, on my way to the subway, I would always think the subway is going to be full of cranks, egomaniacs, you know, people really in a bad mood in the morning. It's probably going to be super packed. The train is going to be delayed. You know, I prepared myself on my walk to the subway station. And by the time I got on the train, everything went smoothly. I was like, oh, wow, that was surprisingly good. That was pleasant. And if everything went accordingly to, you know, according to what I had originally, you know, thought out, I'll be like, yeah, I was prepared for this. I knew this was going to happen. So
there you go.
It's kind of along the same line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned something once to me, Leo. You were talking to your children, I think, and you mentioned, you know, you have to be prepared that it might not work out, right? You have to be open to the fact that it might not work out. Like, as you said, Andrew, worst case scenario, like you have to be open to that and just prepare yourself and come up with a plan for how you're going to respond in that situation. I think you were trying to return a product or something like that, but that really stuck with me. It really stuck, and not to have a negative mindset or to always think pessimistically about things, but just to put yourself in that position so that you don't give it power, like you said.
Right, yeah. Lower your expectations. I think if you lower your expectations, you're kind of like reducing the amount of frustration that you might experience in the future. When you apply for a job, you don't expect to get the job. You like what is within your control. I can do my best. I can prepare for the interview. I can ask lots of questions. I can be a good listener. But that's it. That's the only thing you can do. You have no control over the outcome of anything. And that kind of connects to what Andrew said, is people have lots of ideas. Yes, ideas, first step. Execution is step number 2. But when you're executing ideas, you also have to be prepared for, you know, failure, which we've dealt with quite a lot in our endeavors with Learn Your English many times, right?
I think it's, you know, like, go ahead.
No, it's just going to end in the classroom, right? And it's like you might prepare this wonderful lesson. And sometimes when you're on that kind of pre-lesson high where you're like, oh, this lesson plan is going to be awesome. And then it crashes and totally flops, right? And then afterwards you feel like you're the worst teacher ever, right? So I found like it's helpful on that level too, right? Where you need to kind of mitigate your kind of expectations for how things are gonna work out on a positive side as well, right? As good as I think this lesson might be, there's a chance that it probably could flop in one or two ways, and I'm gonna be okay with that because I'm gonna be open to changing it this way and that way. And I just, I think it goes on. It kind of operates on both sides there. Yeah, sorry,
it's
Andrew.
putting the power back to yourself, right? Like not looking at a job interview like, oh, I don't control the outcome. What if they don't like me? What if you don't like them? Job interviews are a two-way street, right? They offer you a job, maybe, and you accept it. Maybe it's not you go in there and be vulnerable and just succumb to whatever possible thing that they can offer you. You have to like them too. They have to bring something to the table. They have to meet some criteria that you have for doing something. So, and going back again to the first question about self-doubt and teachers this and teachers that, and I think a lot of it, again, speaking for myself, stems from comparing myself to other people, comparing myself to other teachers. Well, Mike's lesson was good. I can hear Mike's students having a good time through the wall. Why aren't my students laughing? It doesn't mean that my lesson is bad or what I'm doing is bad, but I can reflect. If my lesson isn't going the way that I think it is, has nothing to do with Mike's class. What can I do to improve this the next time? And I think the more that I've done that, failure only hurts the first time, for me at least. Once you do it again and again, you just kind of get used to it. And if you can see yourself improving and getting better at something, I think it was T.S. Eliot. I'm going to throw in all the quotes out today. He said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." If we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, we're never going to enjoy the thing that we're doing. And I can compare myself to myself, sure, but even if my students are laughing and having a good time, if that's the aim of my lesson is so that to tell a joke and have them laugh, well, then I've succeeded, right? But most times our aim of the lesson isn't going to be to have students laugh. So I think to stop comparing, to stop, putting only the power in the other people's hands, like in a job interview, to make decisions and to take action on things that I really want to do and that I can control and I can improve on. And
it's a trap. It's a trap.
Yeah.
Basically, you're basically setting yourself a trap. Yeah.
Hi there. My name is Agnes Rubinho. I'm a teacher. I have been part of the Learn Your English community since September 2020. And I couldn't be more grateful for having had the opportunity to join the community because I've been working on my own since 2004. I've been a teacher for 27 years now. But before that, I used to work for schools, and I worked for 3 different schools which use different methodologies. And at that time, I felt that some methodologies worked for some people, but for most people, it didn't work. So I didn't feel I had the flexibility to work on what I believed. And in 2004, I decided to go freelance, and I could work the way I believed based on the students' needs. But for many years, I felt really bad because I wasn't applying any methodology in particular. I was working on what the students brought me. And once I joined the community and I started learning a lot, so I learned about dogma, and then I learned about the power of visualization. I remember this month it was really good. I worked with a lot of students on that, and then they started talking about TBLT. We've been reading Dave Willis' book, and I've been learning so much because when I set the CPE, when I had a course to see the CPE, at the time it was called CPE, it wasn't C2, it was CPE, and the next natural step would be to take the CELTA. But I learned a lot about this, and I didn't feel it fit me. I didn't like the way I learned about CELTA, and I decided not to keep on studying. I just had the postgraduate course in English in my country, but it still didn't help me. It still didn't teach me. It wasn't practical, and I was still working on what I believed with my students. So for a while, I felt like a fraud because I was working on my own ideas, and then Learn Your English came and showed me that it's possible to apply a methodology based on the students' needs. And now I have in my classes a combination of Dogme and TBLT. I work mostly with private students and one-to-one classes. All of my students are private. And I came here to thank you guys, because the work you develop and the work you provide is priceless. And every teacher I talk to, I go like, oh, okay, oh, I meet a new teacher online. I meet a new teacher on Instagram. I say, oh, you should go to Learn Your English. You should learn what these guys are teaching, because this is the future. And now I don't feel like a fraud anymore, because now there is a reason why I felt I needed to work like that. Yeah, so there is evidence behind it. And now I'm learning how to apply it. My classes have improved by leaps and bounds. And I know it's been long, like for almost 4 minutes speaking, but I can't express how grateful I am for you guys in a short time. It has to be long because it's the best choice I made. It's impossible to express. Yeah, the best choice I made when I joined the community. That's why I share this with everyone, and I think everyone should join it as well. Thank you. I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you guys. Take care.
Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm Giovanni. I just stopped by to ask you something. Do you know the community Learn Your English? No, really? Well, you should. I've been part of this community for a month now. It's been an enriching experience for me. I like how committed the founders are to posting useful and amazing content in order to help us. Besides that, we have webinars, which is my favorite part, because it is a moment where we have opportunity to talk with other teachers and to discuss topics related to teaching practice and how we can improve that. So if you don't know their job yet, I highly recommend that you check it out. You're not going to regret it. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay,
Yeah.
Mike, question 3.
Wow, pressure's on. I'm looking at my list of questions. I'm like, oh, that theme's been covered. That theme's been covered. Oh, that theme. So we're gonna
No questions
point,
left.
We're gonna no. We're gonna point to the future. So I'm gonna, classic indecisive Mike here. I'm going to, even though I said I'd like to give definitive advice, but just
I was
contradict
looking at
myself.
Gemini
left, right, and
characteristics here, and indecisiveness was one of them.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I definitely have indecisive fever too, so it's okay.
No, because I think one of the questions we've actually talked about in previous iterations of this end of year type podcast, which is like, what is a habit you should start or like to start? I think since we're talking a little bit more concretely today, what is one achievement that you would like to achieve before you die?
Wow.
Interesting.
Jeez.
It doesn't have to be the only one, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, but what is one that kind of comes to mind?
Wow.
Ooh, baby, Mikey boy. When I'm gonna book a dinner.
What's a habit you should start? Yeah.
I'm gonna book a dinner with you. Do you have a Calendly or something, Mike? We're gonna book a dinner. And we're gonna an achievement before I die. Leo, please feel free to go first on that one.
I'm still thinking. I have way too many things on my list here.
Okay.
Just one.
Is it cheating to say that the achievement that I want is to keep achieving new things?
It's kind of cheating, but
is that cheating?
But what would be one new thing then, Andrew? What would be one new thing, and what, working backwards from that, what's something you could do tomorrow or something you'd like to do in the next 2 weeks to kind of get you moving towards that achievement?
I have the answer.
Okay.
I have my answer. My answer is very simple. is I would like to have worked 3 different careers by the time I'm 80. So I've spent 21 years in the classroom. I feel like now I'm going in a different direction with my career, and I'm studying, I'm learning different things. I'm working with people that are not teachers, that are not in education. I'm learning a great deal from them. And I would like to do this for the next 20 years. And then by the time I'm 60, I would like to try something different. So my achievement then, Mike, would be to maintain a growth mindset.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that would be it for me.
I like
That would probably serve you well in like other areas too, right? Because you'd be active, so your health would probably benefit from that. Your mental health would probably benefit because you'd be feeling rewarded and whatnot. Yeah, Andrew,
Yeah.
I got one. I want to write a book.
you should write a book.
I want to write a book. I don't know about what. I don't know fiction or nonfiction, but you guys know this about me. If you're listening, maybe you don't. I love writing. It's like my favorite thing. Speaking, not so much. Writing is my favorite thing in the world, and I love writing, and I don't do enough of it. So I would like to write a book.
Wow,
Right.
what would it be about, Andrew? I know you're a horror fan. Actually,
A
you like
sci-fi book, like a book about nothing.
You know, I used to have a blog called A Blog About Something.
Beautiful.
Maybe, I do love, I don't think I love horror, but I love Stephen King. I'm reading The Green Mile right now. I read The Stand right before that. Stephen King is my favorite author by far. Because I feel like the horror of his books or his writing isn't the things that can never happen, like people floating around and all of that kind of stuff. The horror of his books are the things that do happen. You know, it's about human relationships, human dynamics, the fear of, if you're a parent, your child dying, and things that actually happen in real life. That's the horror, and that's the human element to his writing. And that's why I love reading him, because it makes me think about real life. So if I wrote a book, it would need to have that kind of component where it would be meaningful. I used to think fiction didn't have that for me, that I wouldn't learn something from fiction, that I only read nonfiction books because, you know, they're about real things and you learn about it, you know, habit building and human nature and these kinds of things. But I've learned that good fiction has real life implications as well. So I don't know. I think a book that I would write would have a little bit of both. I don't have a story in mind, but I would like to write a book.
And I will buy that book.
Oh, you get a free
Yes.
copy, baby. Free signed copy.
Oh, wow. Signed copy. That would be a top seller.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't do it for that. I don't write books for the money. I've learned that too. So you do it for the process.
Yeah. We don't do it. We don't do anything for likes or views, folks. We do it because we love it.
Actually, Andrew, now that you mentioned Stephen King, I read a paper that he wrote a long time ago, because I'm a huge horror movie fan. And fortunately or unfortunately, my daughter has followed in my footsteps. And now we watch horror movies together. And she bought me a copy of it, actually, which I have to read.
Okay.
But it looks daunting because it's like 1,200 pages.
Did you know the It house from the movie is right down the street from where I live?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. It's in Toronto.
Yeah. But basically, he wrote a paper a long time ago. I think it was like in the early 90s. I still have a copy of it. I can see if I can find it. But he basically said, the title of the article is Why We Crave Horror. And he basically said, because you said that, like, oh, I don't know if I like horror, but I like Stephen King's and the way he writes and this and that. But he basically said, and I'll never forget this, he basically said that we are all mentally ill. All of us. Those of us outside the asylums only hide it a little better.
Right.
And maybe not all that much better after all. So
well, this is not my area of expertise, but I think people need an outlet, whatever the outlet is, right? His outlet is writing books about these things that he wonders about. Other people make music and like whatever, right? But there needs to be an outlet somewhere. So writing is my outlet. Other people sing or whatever, do podcasting. But yeah, there needs to be an outlet for sure. Funnily enough, this is my opinion, but I think his favorite or his best book is the only nonfiction book that he wrote, which is On Writing, which is about his writing process and how he kind of comes up with ideas. And because that's like the classic question to fiction authors, especially King, who's written like, I don't know, hundreds of books or whatever it is. How do you think of this stuff? And it's a really, really fascinating read of basically how I don't think I believe him 100% because he claims that he doesn't know how the book's going to end until he actually gets there. I don't think that can be true in all cases, but it's a really, really, really interesting read. If you're interested in the writing process or about him or just about how to write better, check out On Writing by Stephen King.
Will do.
All right.
Maybe it would be one on writing by Andrew Woodbury.
Well,
Ah.
I have to
Has a ring
change
to
the
it.
name. Yeah. I would love to.
Might have to, yeah.
I definitely have imposter syndrome about that.
Building a writing habit, because that's something that you want to do. So maybe you can figure out a way to build a writing habit. Like I don't consider myself a writer, but I've been writing every day for 5 years now. My writing is different from your writing because my writing is mostly journaling. But it's something that, like I said, we've talked about this many, many times with James Clear and Atomic Habits. If you make a habit out of something, it just becomes part of your lifestyle. And I can't live my days, I can't go by my days without journaling. So maybe you could write a book about forming writing habits, I guess.
I think that's an interesting idea. I mean, it applies to everything. Like when I go for a long time without writing something and then I sit down to write something, it's really, really difficult because I'm out of practice, right? If you play golf and you don't play golf for like a year and then you go to play golf, it doesn't go well. It's really, really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teaching the same thing. But I think through doing it, doesn't have to be every day per se, but doing on a consistent exercise, obviously, same thing. You do something consistently on a routine, you can see measured improvements. It gets easier. And then the failure, maybe this is just me talking out loud, but the term failure doesn't apply anymore. Because I feel like, at least for me, I think about failure in something that I haven't done or I haven't done in a long time. So my brother invited me to go golfing this summer. I didn't golf at all last year because pandemic and whatever. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I love playing golf. But I was like, not sure because I was like, oh, I'm going to suck. It's going to be so bad. But if you play golf every day and you have a bad round, you're like, well, I played well yesterday, so I can just come back tomorrow and keep going. And I know kind of what I did wrong. I can make those improvements. So I think for closing out this episode in the full circle, the key to self-doubt is having a habit and doing it every day, because then the failure isn't this big billboard saying failure in your face. It's, oh, I wasn't as good today as I was yesterday, but I've done this before. Yeah. So I know I can get back at it tomorrow and see that measurable improvement.
It's the first attempt in learning, as they say, right?
Right.
Literally. And I think, I don't know if it was Mike, I don't remember who said this, but there's something that I've internalized, which is rejection is redirection. And every time I'm rejected or I reject myself, I just tell myself, you know what? This is just redirection. Maybe this wasn't meant for you. Maybe this is not the right thing for you. And I remember applying for a job recently and not getting the job and thinking, oh man, I'm glad I actually didn't get that job because I didn't want it. Right.
I think that's an interesting exercise too, in things that we were disappointed with at the moment or at the time, reflecting back and saying, what would have happened if that actually had turned out differently?
Yeah.
Okay.
So much for a short episode, huh?
So much for thanks for being vulnerable, guys. This is a very good one.
Thank you.
If we can end super full circle, Leo mentioned Nickelback off the top of the episode. I mentioned Stained. This was one of my questions. It's really, really short. And I think it's really, really controversial. So let's end on this kind of a lighter one. What well-known or famous band shouldn't be famous or is overhyped? And this is a very controversial question.
Easy one for me.
Easy?
Easy. Radiohead.
That's my answer too.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh my God.
I was gonna say Coldplay.
Okay.
Coldplay.
Okay.
I just don't get it. I don't get their music. Radiohead, yeah, Radiohead's tough. What was
I was ready for you guys to give me shit about that.
Benz was a good answer, but good album. But maybe since then, even Paranoid Android, whatever the one after that was.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, OK Computer is their big one. Like
that's
okay.
the one. OK Computer. Yeah.
Like I understand the hype of Radiohead. Like I understand the way that they concoct their music. Okay, I get it. I don't like it. This is contentious, I guess, but Leo, you agree with me, so that's fine. But I don't get it. I don't get Radiohead.
They have this well-earned reputation for writing music that is just depressing as hell.
There's that too. Yeah.
And it's not to say that it's bad music. Far from it. It's actually really well produced.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But it's just not the kind of thing you would play at a pool party, like, oh, let's play some Radiohead now. Have some fun. No, nobody's gonna do that.
Not since the late 90s when it was cool to be sad and depressed all the time.
I mean, I have stronger feelings than that. I just don't like it. Like I wouldn't say music is bad because it's a question of taste and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's definitely not my taste, and I don't like it. I've changed my opinion on, Leo would be mad at if I still had this opinion, but I used to have the same opinion about Weezer, but I've changed my mind.
Oh no, Weezer's good.
I went to see Weezer with Mike.
Yeah, that was a great concert. Great memories. Yeah.
Who opened for them? It was Weezer. There was another bit.
Pixies. Pixies, yeah.
Pixies, yes. Weezer and Pixies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite the lineup. Good. Yeah.
I feel bad about saying Coldplay. For me, I don't know. It's just it's just kind of lame. But I get it. People like that kind of light rock.
You heard it here, folks. Michael Landry quote: "People like lame." That's gonna go up on the.
Yeah. Oh wow!
It's gonna be the promo for the episode.
I'll be singing Coldplay at work later today. Yeah.
Viva la vida, baby. All right, boys. I guess that's a wrap. We gotta go here.
Yes. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, folks.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and catch us in December for our year in review episode. Thanks for listening. Ask us anything. If you have any other questions for us, please do that on Instagram. I guess we can do an Ask Me Anything for the group when we post the episode here shortly. So thanks for listening.